Hello and welcome. My name is Kristen Blazek and I am coordinator of student recruitment for the College of Urban Affairs. Today we'll be talking about the Center for Economic Development's paper, Opportunities for Youngstown in the Supply Chains of Northeast Ohio and Pittsburgh Economies. I am here with my co-host, Molly. Molly, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great. How was your holiday?
Like everybody, my holiday was too short, but good.
Right. Samesies on my end. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody who hasn't tuned in before?
Sure. My name is Molly Schnook. I am with the Center for Community Planning and Development and the Levin College Forum Program.
Great. And then we have some guests with us today.
My name is Iryna Demko. I am research associate at the Center for Economic Development at Cleveland State University.
And I am Birsen Karpak from Youngstown State University. I teach supply chain management classes, and I think my main specialty now, I'm teaching enterprise resource planning systems, and I'm teaching it with SAP ERP systems. Actually, I was teaching at Youngstown State as well. They invited me for about 10 years. I taught enterprise resource planning, how to integrate different business processes using SAP.
Hey, and I'm Sara Daugherty. I'm a director of partnerships at BRITE Energy Innovators. It's a nonprofit energy tech incubator that serves startups across Ohio and Appalachia.
Let's get started. So this paper focuses on Youngstown, and I know that Youngstown, there's been a lot of research around Youngstown. So why are we back to focusing on Youngstown?
Yes, so the main reason we are focusing on Youngstown is that because in 2019, the Lordstown General Motors plant closed and it left 1,500 people unemployed. And after that, the Center for Economic Development and the Eastgate Regional Council of Governments at Youngstown received a grant from the Economic Development Administration to support economic recovery of the region. And since then, we published 5 research briefs covering different issues. One was focusing specifically on housing, the impact of GM closure on housing in the region. One was focusing on the role of public transportation. Once pandemic started, we issued a research brief specifically on the impact of COVID on the economy of Youngstown. And we did find very sad statistics, such as 40% of previously employed residents in Mahoning and Trumbull counties, they filed for unemployment as pandemic started, 40%. And now this brief, we really want to look into the future, and one of the opportunities, we look at the supply chain, the role of the possibilities for Youngstown in the supply chain of Northeast Ohio and Pittsburgh economies.
So why is Pittsburgh included in this? Right, Northeast Ohio is a big place. There's several MSAs that are included in the broader region of Northeast Ohio. What's the rationale and real importance of including Pittsburgh in this examination?
So first of all, Pittsburgh is close. If you look just geographically on the map, Youngstown is really in between these two large economies. And second, well, what we found that Pittsburgh has a lot of opportunities for diversifying the economy of Youngstown. If already when you look at the economic-based industries of Northeast Ohio and Youngstown, they are similar in terms of the dominance of manufacturing industries. But for Pittsburgh, it's very different. The economy of Pittsburgh, 70% of the economic base of Pittsburgh economy consists of services. And it's a lot of financial services when you look specifically at opportunities. That's why I think the Pittsburgh economy is very interesting for Youngstown.
Can I ask, the Lordstown plant, you said it was a GM plant. So what exactly is the Lordstown plant and why is it a big thing for Youngstown?
It was the major employer, and historically, I think maybe someone from more locally can tell more.
Like, what is the significance of this Lordstown plant, and why are we focusing
Yeah.
so many efforts on doing something with the Lordstown plant?
Sure. I'll take a quick step back. I think Ira had the perfect answer regarding the Pittsburgh market. As someone in their 30s that lives in the Youngstown metro, when it comes to professionals, say, if I go to my gym, if people are working locally, they're either with the hospital system or higher education like Youngstown State, or they commute to Independence, Ohio for finance, insurance jobs, or they're commuting to Cranberry, PA. So when it comes to our labor shed, that's very connected. I'm a little hazy. I used to spend a lot of times in location quotients and so forth, and I'm not in that world right now. I think around, say, like 2015, 2016, if you were to look at the location quotient, so the impact of those automotive manufacturing jobs for the MSA and all of that disproportionately being the GM Lordstown plant, there's something like between 7 and 9 local jobs for every job at that Lordstown plant were created. So the domino effect of losing those 1,500 jobs, should, as this research has shown, has a multitude of effects.
Actually, Pittsburgh is quite important for me as well. I usually, we have this SAP Users Group. It is called ASAC, which is companies who are using SAP, and they have an organization in Ohio. So I do take my students, their meetings in Ohio, but I do take their meetings to companies in Pittsburgh as well. So not only Pennsylvania, but Pittsburgh has, since it is so lively, and there are so many companies, so they have special group for Pittsburgh, and I do take my students because it's a good job opportunities for them. Yeah. Of
So
course. Yeah, go ahead.
No, please.
No,
finish.
please go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so you're describing this place, Youngstown, right, which sits right on the PA border and straddles, sort of 2 economic regions. And kind of split that way. You take your students into Ohio, you take your students into Pittsburgh, the labor shed. So what opportunities exist for Youngstown having connections to both the larger Northeast Ohio economy and the larger Pittsburgh economy? Where do those opportunities sit for a place like Youngstown?
There are a lot of companies around there. For example, my students are working for Moen. There are so many companies. They work for Cleveland State, so not only manufacturing companies, but some service organizations. They do have supply chain management in hospitals as well. And in Pittsburgh, of course, there are so many companies. Of course, my students are more responsive Ohio companies rather than Pittsburgh companies, because they don't want to travel 1 hour to Pittsburgh. But still, I want them, and they meet some people even from Ohio in Pittsburgh, since it is so close, and since this organization organizes so many good meetings, attracts so many good companies, so they are interested.
So I want to add from our perspective, when we looked at the industries, we looked at economic-based industries in Northeast Ohio and Pittsburgh, and we looked at the input demand of those industries. And we interlaid that demand with the economic-based industries in Youngstown, what they are already producing. And we found that 5 sectors, we found that Northeast Ohio economic base, and we found that Northeast Ohio and Pittsburgh economic base industries, they buy 4.3 billion of inputs elsewhere to support just to support
outside of both regions?
Yes, outside of the regions. And when we looked at Youngstown, Northeast Ohio buys 4%. It's 100 million of its input from Youngstown. So it's already buying some of its input from Youngstown, but it could buy more. And specifically, we are looking at advanced manufacturing, opportunities in advanced manufacturing, opportunities in other manufacturing sectors. We also looked at financial services. We found it's a big aspirational for Youngstown, specifically with Pittsburgh, and energy and polymers and chemicals. I think Sara can talk more about energy sector and others.
Yeah, Sara, what would that look like? So what would the energy sector look like if the two regions were to increase what inputs and purchases they get out of Youngstown?
That's an awesome question. So I think someone that used to work for the Ohio Development Resources Council once said, if he could redo political boundaries, he'd do them based on watersheds. And I think that's so true with Youngstown, because I'm right now in Warren, and about 10 miles north of me is where the watershed starts for things entering Lake Erie. But where I am right now, that's the Ohio River. And I think that kind of resembles some of this industry impact and what we're seeing. And historically, like, there's just the Cleveland relationship, particularly for industrial mergers and acquisitions. You have the history of Rockefeller and so forth in Cleveland. And then if you really look at the base jobs that created the Mahoning Valley, a lot of the intellectual property and the management of those industries were either given to Cleveland entities, or really we see a disproportionate number of ownership out of the Pittsburgh region, like Arconic, US Steel, and so forth. So that's where a lot of that strength comes from. And we're seeing a lot of activity around, I'd say, with energy sector and manufacturing. One is kind of the Youngstown region is kind of similar to, say, like Allentown or Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, and kind of being a logistics hub for a larger area, just since we have such a great connectivity to a lot of North America. But the Ohio River Basin as well, and the history of chemical refinement and that ability to get raw materials to manufacturers. So that legacy still continues today, and even thinking that through about the digitization of how energy is being distributed. And that's really where we get excited around battery manufacturing. And as that comes alive, if those products can be produced in the Youngstown area and then deployed through international, Fortune 500s that are located in Pittsburgh.
Iryna, you talked about the potential for advanced manufacturing inputs. And right now, I think you said 4% of what Cleveland purchases is out of Youngstown. Aspirationally, what is sort of the upper bounds of what that could look like? Is that eventually 10%? Is that, as much as 20%?
Yes, it really depends on the capacity of the region. We didn't look at the, I can say, of course it's 100, could be 100%, right? Which is for 70%, that's 3 billion. That's Northeast Ohio buys from outside. It could come from Youngstown, but yeah, we didn't look at that. I think it's a good question to look at. Do
you guys have recommendations for what Youngstown can do to increase that? So what is the broader set of strategies that a place like Youngstown would have to engage in to increase its connections and its inputs into its sort of dual regional economies here of Pittsburgh and Cleveland?
In terms of recommendations, I can say that some specific companies that are big employers already in this sectors, they can benefit from these new opportunities. And these are, I have some on my list, like for example, Stifel, a financial management company, or in the energy sector, we have Northern States Metal. It installs one of the largest solar panels in the US, and it could benefit if energy sectors booms, develops. And there is also a National Heat Exchange Cleaning Corporation that offers repairs for energy generation industry. And I think it's something that we also found we looked at the output growth of industries in Youngstown from 2017 and 2019, and we found that the commercial machinery, equipment repair and maintenance industry grew 14%. And I think it's something that we discussed with Sara, that it's definitely an opportunity for Youngstown to fill a space in the repair and maintenance of industrial systems for advanced manufacturing.
Yeah, I concur. I think Youngstown State, Eastern Gateway Community College, and even, you know, having those larger partnerships like with Cleveland State and some of the other community colleges, the maintenance of energy systems is a large employment and economic share opportunity for the Metro. But really, you know, what Birsen's doing here with that software as a service and the back end for operations, that is definitely a place where our local workforce is needed and where business opportunities can be made. Just thinking, you know, along the 80 interstate and some of the logistics companies there. If you think of AIM Leasing, one of the largest semi-contractors in the country, I think it really is a business development opportunity, but in the sense that these local companies need a workforce that can serve a larger market.
One of the things we did, we also compared wages across the sectors that we found, and we found that, again, financial services and energy sectors, they have one of the highest wages. So it's something that can attract residents to Youngstown and revitalize the region.
What does the time frame for something like this look like? Are we talking about, you know, increasing, you know, incrementally on a scale over 5 years? Is this 10 years? Is this 15 years?
I have
That's a question. Yeah, I think it is multi-generational. I don't know enough. I think I'm just thinking, like, if I look at my Instagram feed for some of these financial companies, they all have offices in like Naples, Florida, and like where the Youngstown diaspora is. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, like, you know, how can we work a little closer to home? I look forward to working with CSU and kind of answering that question. I think, you know, a lot of it starts just with simple government procurement, correct? And that's definitely something everyone always works on, is those first in the door opportunities to establish yourself as a vendor. I think, you know, working to increase local ownership to be able to be at the door for those opportunities, because I think a lot of this is, right, disrupting established relationships in other markets.
To me, the time question is also the workforce question. How long will it take to train people who could work in these industries? And I mean, college education 4 or 5 years. So is this right, Professor Karpak?
Yeah. This is what I am doing. Actually, I am trying to create students for Fortune 500 companies around here, and usually I urge my students. Some of them don't want; they want to work in small medium enterprises. I said it's okay, wherever you feel comfortable. But my main aim, encourage them to join these big companies, V&M Star, Goodyear. I include, as I say, Cleveland. Cleveland Clinic as well? Yeah. Moen, there are different, quite a few companies, yeah, that employ our students. And even sometimes they are employed in Columbus, Parker Hannifin. So actually, I have very nice problem. I have so many good job opportunities, but I don't have enough students. So actually, I think we should generate more students. Because it is, I think this our program, our ERP certificate program, is really unique in Northeast Ohio. And Cleveland State didn't have any expertise in this area. So that's why they hired me for about 10 years, and I did it for them. But after a while, my workload increased so much, I didn't have time. So I said, I have to concentrate Youngstown. So this is what I am doing.
Well, that's a good recruitment message, right? Of bringing young people into this area and this area of study. So, you know, what would you tell prospective students about this? You know, why go into this area? Not just right, the jobs, but what's interesting about it, the wages, the opportunities, you know, what does it
very
look
good
like?
opportunities. One of my students what is hired by Aptiv. I'm sure you know the Aptiv. Do you know Aptiv? Did I pronounce right? AP.
Yeah, it's headquartered.
Yeah.
It's U.S. headquarters are in Pittsburgh.
Aptiv is actually it is down the road on Belmont Avenue here in Youngstown, and they hired him. He was only 23 years old, and they paid him $70,000. This is very good incentive for, and he was very surprised. He wasn't expecting that he will be paid that high. Normally, our students get maybe between 50 to 70. Highest rate is for our accounting students. But this student was actually his major was marketing. He just did supply chain management, because then when he find out that there are more good job opportunities in supply chain. Now, a lot of our accounting students actually getting this ERP certificate. They are getting, because even some accounting companies now, they know this supply chain knowledge, and they are doing consultancy companies want this expertise as well.
So
I think it's definitely a role for an institution like Levin School to kind of figure out how to address this. We're talking about young people, but I don't know the young people in the market. To my knowledge, 3 more local school districts consolidated in the past year. Looking, our year-over-year population decline is about 2%. I think each week our metro loses about 8 people, and that's attrition to other markets, moving to Phoenix, the Carolinas, and so forth. So I think what we found, and I think with CSU's work is kind of what's stabilizing the area is an influx of workers from other metros, from Canton, from Cranberry, from East Liverpool to float our local economy.
I heard that one of the local company, they moved their headquarters to Austin, Texas, and they were in our Youngstown incubator. But I understand that some other states give more incentive, I think. So maybe we should, I don't know what are the incentives in Ohio. We should give more incentives in Ohio, then they should stay there.
Right. So, what does that incentive structure potentially look like for Youngstown and Ohio? And is it, is it state-based incentives? Is it more driven locally? Are these things that communities across the country are now awash in federal dollars from ARPA and rescue funds from the pandemic? Are other communities looking to use those kinds of funds to do these very things in attracting companies?
I mean, companies go where the people are. So where do people want to be? The City of Warren locally is updating their comprehensive plan, and I was just looking at their green space plan, and just out of curiosity, I looked at the green space in, say, Charlotte, North Carolina, in Austin, and I think like Charlotte has 18 times the amount of green space per person versus our local city. Austin's 20x times. It really comes down to that quality of life, and unfortunately, our metro continues to rank in the bottom quintile on anything related to life expectancy. A number of people with higher degrees of education. So, and looking at places with great decline, the strategies around improving quality of life are important, but seeing, say, West Virginia University and their philanthropic community, what they're doing around workplace incentives, so providing living stipends to kind of cover the costs of healthcare of rent to keep people in their markets, as well as attract gig economy workers, is unfortunately kind of what we're seeing, because yeah, the incentives to the companies really, that doesn't matter. The companies go where the people are.
So a lot of place-based strategies, I hear you saying.
Correct.
Place-making strategies, I should say. So what?
I don't think even universities are really trying to attract the quality people. Yeah, some of us are here because we have been here, but I think some people really want to leave this area if there aren't good job opportunities.
Yeah, we did a through Eastgate, we did a study, I believe in 2018, of young professionals, and the number one reason why people were local was because of family obligations. If they didn't have the family obligation, they would leave the community. So with another generation, you know, of the baby boomers retiring and moving to that said Naples, the problem is just going to exacerbate itself.
Now, with the pandemic, we've seen a lot of jobs where people are able to stay where they are, but, you know, work in another part of the country, and they don't have to move or anything like that. Is that going to affect these markets at all?
Luckily, it gave opportunity to some people moving out of state and working for Ohio. That gave this opportunity as well.
Yeah, anecdotally, I think I know 7 young professionals that were either in New York, Chicago, or DC that have moved back to the Mahoning Valley in the last 18 months. In part is that, the cost of living is lower, but without reliable childcare publicly at this time, they came home so that their families could help.
That's
right. So that social support system, and that need to be connected in your community and have the not just professional but personal resources available to do the job that you do and live the life that you have. Yeah, no,
it's definitely a wonderful place to raise a family, and it is kind of nice. You know, some of my peers I never thought I'd see again outside of Christmas and Thanksgiving vacations. It's great to know that, you know, we can go meet up when we want to now, safely, of course.
So we're right at time. So are there any final thoughts about the study, about the future of Youngstown that you want to add that we haven't maybe talked about? Hopeful view of Youngstown in the future?
Yes, we are working on the next brief. I think it will be the last one summarizing all our findings to identify aspirational industries for the economy, not necessarily in the supply chain, but in general. We are again using LQs, and maybe on the next recording we will share the findings.
So what are the areas other than the supply chain you meant? I couldn't follow you, sorry.
Oh, these are, we want to identify aspirational industries for Mahoning and Trumbull counties across all industries.
What will be concrete outcome from these studies? Can you just say that?
I think this is phenomenal work, and it's created in part because of the recognition that the Youngstown Metro has difficulty diversifying its economy. So I think the supply chain in the future study and really seeing this recommendation out of all of the service opportunities out of the Pittsburgh market, I think really affects maybe some of the strategic planning that takes place with the economic development organizations on where they prioritize, whether it's those attraction dollars or you know, as we keep on talking about the workforce challenges in order to sustain what local control of privately owned corporations or companies that we have in the Youngstown Metro.
we look forward to it, and we will be happy to meet with all of you again and hear what you have to say as a follow-up to the next brief.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
It was-
doing all these for Youngstown.
Yes, I appreciate, it was great meeting you guys. It was great talking to you about this, and hopeful for the future for Youngstown and Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, sign off.
All right, there you go. I was gonna say we have to do a pause and then at the end to be like, this is the end.
Okay.
All right. No, I was actually it's coincidental because just last week I was in Youngstown on my way home from Lisbon. We did like a tiny cabin in Lisbon, and then we drove up to Youngstown on our way home to go on the Lanterman's Mill like path.
Yeah. Mhm.
It said it was family friendly. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I'm glad I did it, but absolutely terrifying. Because there is a big chunk of that like trail that is only like 8 inches wide, but like 150-foot drop
Ooh.
to the rapids, and there's like no railing. And I have like a 3-year-old in like rain boots trying to like navigate this path. So it was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely terrifying. What a thrill.
Yeah. No, I live about 3 blocks from there. So I don't even think of it as dangerous anymore, but I've just been excited because they've actually, the paths actually used to be even smaller. So
Ooh.
it's good to hear an outside perspective where they're still seen as narrow.
Yeah. Yes, because it couldn't walk single file. We had like, I was like holding on to the one
Aw.
like on this side being like, don't look that way. That's beautiful. And it was absolutely gorgeous to be over there and I drove past the Lordstown factory and being like, let's do something for here.
Yeah, no, that project's really exciting. Both the Lordstown Motors, obviously they have lots of financial challenges, but kudos to them for taking that on. It's phenomenal. But even the LTM project, I think the full equivalent or employee count will be like 1,200 there, and a lot of that, it does not require even an associate's degree. It's accreditation towards industrial maintenance systems, and a lot of the supply chain management. So it's definitely a great opportunity, and their leadership team actually is here right now. They're doing train the trainer, and like their training for their site out of Chattanooga and so forth is actually taking place in Mahoning Valley. So it's really exciting.
Fun stuff. Well, I mean, it's an interesting work that you guys have here, and the body of work around Youngstown. We were saying at the beginning the number of research briefs and activity, and hope that continues, and CSU can continue to partner and engage with folks around improving Youngstown as well as connections to Cleveland.
Mhm.
For sure. It was great meeting you all.